All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, September 2nd. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Hey, I'm Pat. Back on American soil. Had to go away for a while, visit my European friends, but I'm back here to see the most American movie of the year, Reagan 2024, and we had to bring in a special guest, our chief Ronald Reagan correspondent, podcast Jesus himself from the Kirk Minahan Show. Kirk Minahan is here. Kirk, welcome back to the BO Boys.
Hello, boys. How's it going? Things going well?
Wow. Okay, Clayton.
1 second.
I wasn't expecting this.
I'm not done. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Okay, this is great.
I hope everyone here is Republican.
Today we're all Republicans, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, boys. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Luckily, my wife doesn't listen to the podcast, so she won't hear me say that. But there we go.
Typical foreign, loving lib. No surprise there.
No surprise. I give you what you expect. So we all saw it. Let's just do the plow. We got to just do this plow. Let's do this plow, and then we're getting into Reagan 2024. Clayton, can you give us a plow for the? I'm so flustered by.
I know. I've never
Reagan
seen Pat
here.
this flummoxed.
I've never met a president.
Yeah.
I've never met a president. I've tried. I've camped out outside there. I've stalked, but until today, I've never met a president.
I was once in the same room as Rich Little. I'll just say that. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that.
Just as good. It's just as good.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Wow.
So let's do a plow. Number one, Deadpool and Wolverine made $15.1 million, down only 17%. It lost 210 theaters. It's at $599.5 million in its sixth weekend of release. Number two, Alien Romulus made $9.3 million, down 43%. It hemorrhaged 795 theaters. It's at $88.7 million in its third weekend. Number three, It Ends With Us made $7.4 million, down 36%. It lost 268 theaters. It's at $133.7 million in its fourth weekend. And number four, a newbie, Reagan from Showbiz Direct made $7.4 million in its first frame. And number five, Twisters, $7.1 million, up 17%. It lost 201 theaters. It's at $258 million in its seventh weekend of release. That is the top five, my friends.
And Clayton, we did have another newbie this week. Afraid opened at number 9 from Sony to 3.7 million. This is What If Megan Was a House movie. Mm-hmm. That's basically what Afraid is. So we could touch on that later, but let's just get right into it. This is maybe our most anticipated movie of the year, Reagan 2024, Reagan movie. Clayton's got the hat. Kirk's got the spirit. So Dennis Quaid is Ronald Reagan, but Kirk, throwing to you first, what is your Reagan relationship? Who was Ronald Reagan to you as a child, as a rambunctious teen, as an adult? Like, who is Ronald Reagan to Kirk Minahan?
Reagan was the 80s to me. When I grew up in the 80s. It was Bruce Springsteen, David Lee Roth, Hulk Hogan, Michael J. Fox, Ronald Reagan. He was Ferris Bueller. He was one of those people, So yeah, I was excited going in to see that. Before we give a reaction, I don't know if you guys are interested. I don't do impressions. Do a little trivia if you wanted as well.
Oh yeah. It. Yes,
okay.
Of course.
All the bags of every trick's coming out of the bag. I love this.
Today. Shirley MacLaine and Warren Beatty, Peter and Jane Fonda, Lionel and Ethel Barrymore, Joaquin and River Phoenix, and I am guaranteeing you next March, you can add Matt and Kevin Dillon to the siblings who have been nominated for an Academy Award. I mean, I feel like Dillon's probably as Jack Warner. We're going to put them in. Look, we're not Oscar people here, okay? I understand that, right? We're not here to do that. But Kevin Dillon is almost a lock for supporting actor. Maybe the win. I think, who won supporting actress last year?
Supporting actress last year.
2 years ago. Who won last year? It was an opposite. Oh, it was Divide, Join, Rand.
Yes,
right?
yes.
She'll be handing the Oscar to Kevin Dillon next year. Guaranteed. What a performance. Unbelievable.
Do you think he had enough screen time? I mean, I agree the power of the performance.
And Anthony Hopkins. I mean, you tell me. I mean, you can do it any way you want. It's a supporting performance. Yeah, yes, plenty of time. Yeah. John Voight, tough, also supporting. It'll be head to head. This movie gave me everything I wanted. Everything I wanted. Cradle to grave, whole way through. A++. I'm not going to say if it's a good or bad movie, but for what I wanted, I got. I got Bob Davey. I got Dennis Quaid. I got C. Thomas Howell. I got some random guy playing George Bush. I got Kevin Dillon. I got Margaret Thatcher pumping her fist. I got people turning their heads during a Reagan speech. Barbers giving haircuts at 9:00 at night. Everything I want. Penelope Ann Miller. 12 out of 10.
Jelly beans. We got jelly beans in this movie.
Jelly beans. You got Reagan jokes. You got him looking at the fishbowl at the end of his life.
Yeah.
You got the horse thing. And I'll tell you what. I'll tell you guys this. The theater I was in lapped it up 1,000%. 1,000%. I don't know. The cinema score, I bet you was an A or an A+, right? I haven't seen it. Has to be.
Yeah. I think it's definitely much higher than the critic score. So we saw this because we're coastal elites. We saw this in New York City.
Sure. Right.
And I could tell you, Kirk, at the end of this movie, full clapping.
Applause.
Yeah. Full applause. It was a recall to the clapping that we had for the War with Grandpa on this show. It was that level of clapping.
Sure. And how many, Clay, how much money do you think, how many tickets that were not accounted for will be found in rivers across America? Lakes just buried underground. We'll find 50 years from now, we'll find $250,000 worth of Reagan tickets. Because these people, in Iowa, Wisconsin, they're paying in cash. They're paying in IOUs. They're paying in deeds. They're not, this box office return is not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to, this film will not be measured by the box office, unfortunately. I know that is what we deal in, but there's going to be no way to really find out the actual box office of this. What we'll find is the cultural, reverberations of this film, is the people wearing loafers like we saw at the theater. We saw many a young man wearing a polo and loafers.
Sure.
I mean, once you see that popping up, these are Reagan buyers.
Yep.
And it's interesting because Pat was showing me on the app, because we're part of an A-list entourage, and Pat always does the ticket buying. And he showed me on the seat, like how many seats were supposedly taken, right?
Same thing. I'm going to tell you the same story in a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
Look like a sparse showing.
Yep.
Right? We get in there packed because this is the sort of people who don't want to be tracked.
Correct.
The only people that bought tickets pre were us and maybe Pat, 3 or 4 other people spread out, giving each other space, right? Respectfully giving each other their space.
Sure.
And then we come in and it's way more packed than we expected.
Yeah.
I had the same exact experience. I had like 2 tickets sold when I looked at it. Place was 70% full. My friend Jeff D. Lowe from Barstool Sports, another big movie guy. Same thing. Theater completely sold out, he said, for the screening. So I don't know. Will this movie have legs? Will it make like 5 or 6 million next weekend? Or is it done?
I'm going to throw out a conspiracy theory here, because why not? This is the episode for it. Twisters at number 5 went up 17% this weekend. And great movie. Everyone likes it. It's doing well. But why did that go up 17% this weekend? If we are figuring that a lot of these Reagan ticket goers don't want to be tracked, I do think there is a percentage of people that bought Twisters tickets. So they wanted to support another all-American, wholesome
Middle America
movie, country music, Middle America. So they bought their Twisters tickets, but they went to go see Reagan. I think that's a possibility here. I think some of those Twisters dollars should trickle down to Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, it's on video on demand now. Twisters. Yeah, that's an interesting theory. That's not a bad theory.
Yeah.
It's a shame that people can't just openly buy a ticket to a movie that is in theaters. That is disappointing to me. But I mean, listen, that's the world we live in right now.
So you mentioned Kevin Dillon possibly getting an Oscar nomination. I think I think the issue could be, and it's something that Oppenheimer had to sort out last year, is
Hmm.
there's just so many Oscar-worthy performances in this movie. You know, you mentioned Robert Davey,
Sure.
you mentioned John Voight.
Incredible.
Let's stay on John Voight here because we're not critics, but I think
Uh-huh.
we're gonna break down this movie. We all saw it. What could John Voight be the Oscar nominee here? So he played a ex-KGB agent who was narrating the life of Ronald Reagan to and I got to say Clayton and I did miss maybe the first 4 minutes of this movie. We got in, you know, we thought we were walking into an empty theater. We walked into a packed house. We missed
Yeah.
a few minutes. Was the young man that John Voight was narrating the story to, was he a current KGB agent? Was he a communist that wanted to get back into communism? What is his deal?
Well, let me try and explain. It's funny. Again, Jeff DeLaw, we had the same conversation. We're not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
And look, a critic, which we're not, would say that if somebody like that was really high up in the KGB, they would probably be pretty familiar with what was essentially a Wikipedia version of Ronald Reagan's life that John Voight narrated to this guy. So I'm not going to be cynical about that.
Right.
I'm not really sure what was going on there, but they go back in time with John Voight. I mean, there is de-aging going on all over the place. I mean, John Voight's character, I think, is supposed to be in his 40s. I think at the beginning, or 50s. They should have gone back to when they went back to the 90s with him. He should have had his Heat look.
Yes.
My favorite, basically, Runaway Train, my two favorite John Voight performances. Could have had either look, that in the 80s and maybe, but I mean, you know, his 90s look, I didn't really love. His old man look was fine. The accent, perfect. I was convinced he was actually Russian. Yeah.
And I do like that they add the subtle touch of he is drinking vodka the entire time he's narrating the life of Ronald Reagan.
Too. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's subtle. He only does it every time they cut to him. Very subtle. We all like that, but it's important to remind you he is indeed Russian. He's not American. John Voight.
And Kevin, and listen, I'll say it right now. Probably not an Oscar, but you got to throw Kevin Sorbo in the mix too. I imagine they'll probably give him some for your consideration, advertising. Season. I would think you have to toss him that.
Yeah, it's interesting in this year because I don't know, Kirk, if you're following at all the early Oscar buzz, but
sure,
Angelina Jolie is getting a lot of. Is this the comeback for Angelina Jolie after being sort of in the wilderness for a while? Wouldn't it be ironic that her father, who she refuses to talk to, is the guy who has the Oscar comeback this year? Because we know we've seen, listen, the director, we're not going to get into too much Oscar talk, but the director who directed the movie she's in has had, nominations for Best Actress in those for those past two movies he did, but they didn't win. And they actually sunk to the bottom pretty quickly once the actual race started. I think that's what happens to Jolie. And then you see Voight floating to the top.
I like that.
She's not going to be happy about that.
And how about even double revenge? Voight shows up at the Oscars with Jolie's brother and kind of like makes out with him and says he's in love with him, as she did when she won her Oscar. It's sort of a full revenge move.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then Brad Pitt, you get him in the mix on this show. I mean, this is what the Oscars needs. The Oscars this year needs nominations for John Voight and Angelina Jolie on the same show. And you have Brad Pitt present both categories. That's what the Oscars needs. The John Voight part, what did you make of the way he wore his suit? Did remind me of Dana Carvey in The Master of Disguise as the famous turtle character. And I mean, I think that was on purpose. I don't think anything in this Reagan movie was by accident.
It was an homage.
Yeah, it's like a Kubrick movie. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You could really dissect this. When Kevin Dillon did show up, he was unrecognizable as Jack Warner. I did not pick. Clayton, to his credit, did nudge me and say, there's drama's on screen.
Right.
But he really does just completely disappear into this character. And I feel like this is the movie where he finally became an adult, Kevin Dillon.
Sure. As I said about Downey Jr. last year, unrecognizable, some people thought, as I said about many Oscar performances. So yeah. I was watching the movie, I'll confess, a little, I'm not going to say bored, but it certainly told you every single thing about Ronald Reagan's life. If you're looking for every single thing even if it's 2 seconds spent on it, you're going to get it in this movie. That is for sure. That is going to happen. The kind of thing where they're in a meeting, like a staff meeting, and somebody says, Mr. President, the air traffic control people want to go on strike. And Reagan says, oh, really? Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Boom. Then we're done with it. I like that. Just, spend no time on it. Just move on to the next moment in his life.
Well, that's the thing. If this had been a series, there's 3 hours of episodes on him firing the air traffic controllers.
Yeah. Who needs that? Yeah.
This movie, you get that jolt of him saying they're fired.
Right.
And
or
that's it.
Or the first wife, Mina Suvari, plays Jane Wyman. Boom. 2 words at the grave. She walks out of there. Next wife. Bang.
So let's stay on the wives, because last year Oppenheimer, which I do think at this point we all agree this is this year's Oppenheimer. Reagan is Oppenheimer of 2024. Last year, Emily Blunt got the Oscar nomination for playing Oppenheimer's wife. Which of the wives do you think gets in? And inevitably one of them will. Mina Suvari as the character known as the first wife, or Nancy Reagan played by, this is a huge comeback, Penelope Ann Miller.
Go ahead, Clayton.
Oh, I think you got to go with Penelope on this one.
Okay.
For sure. Just more screen time. She's way more supportive than the first wife, obviously. And I think that's going to be the thing that puts her over there. The way she wore matching outfits with Ronnie, them sitting, eating their dinner on TV trays in matching outfits. That's the clip right there. You don't get more supportive than that, right?
That's this year's Bringing the Sheets. Is when Nancy Reagan eats at a TV tray, eats dinner with her husband at a TV tray. Are TV trays going to make a comeback because of this movie, Kirk? That was a huge. I remember in my youth,
typical.
It was all about TV trays.
Typical coastal question. Get your ass in the middle of America and you have your answer.
They never went anywhere.
Maybe for you they'll come back and like a chic. Oh, let's make fun of, Joe and Jane dumbass and Davenport, Iowa. But the real people are doing that every night. They're watching the evening news. They're watching, some Fox show with Peter Krause and Angela Bassett. They're wondering if they'll get together again. They're watching Dick Wolf Thursdays on NBC while you're sitting there mocking them.
Yeah.
I guess my question was more, will there be a bar in Williamsburg that brings TV trays in, ironically, for me to drink craft beers on? You
play arcade games after, and everybody has you play your records, your vinyl stuff. Yes, you should open that.
I got to make some money off of this movie.
Yeah, the two of you can dress wear the same outfit, the two of you, and do it there.
Yeah. I'm always wearing this, so Pat would just have to match me in the wild. And if you look back in my background, this tornado that I've had as my background, you can spot the TV trays. There's plenty of them swirling around because that's where you eat most of your meals when you live in the stacks.
Is the studio happy with this weekend? Would they have signed for this weekend a week ago?
I think 7.4 and then 9.7.
Right?
9 for the 4-day. For fake numbers, that is great. Like, they couldn't even fake it lower. That means this is so much higher. Like, they tried, but they couldn't make this a $2 million, $3 million movie. They couldn't make this Cry Macho. That's the thing, is more people want to see Reagan than want to see The Crow and want to see Clint Eastwood as a cockfighter. Like, that means a lot. A lot more people wanted to see Reagan than that.
Yeah, and just throwing out a comparison, obviously not in terms of, in terms of quality, because this was also a great movie. Clayton famously remembers I had this as one of my best movies of the year back in 2018. Compare this to Gotti. Compare Reagan to 2018's Gotti with John Travolta.
Another entourage connection, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And that movie opened to, and that was famously a Movie Pass co-production, if I remember.
Yes. I think that's right. That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
It was you open up the Movie Pass app, the first thing you get is John Travolta listing the 5 boroughs in Gotti. That's how the movie started. Yeah. That movie opened in June 2018 to $1.7 million, ranking number 11. So Reagan, Gotti, the two maybe along with Hulk Hogan and Bruce Springsteen, your four pillars of the 1980s. And Reagan trounced Gotti. So I think if you're the studio here, you got to be happy that Reagan trounced Gotti so thoroughly at the box
He also
office.
I think he also trounced Bruce. That Blinded by the Light movie did not open to 9 million.
Yeah, he trounced Bruce.
Yeah.
And so now we're just, I guess, waiting on the Hulk Hogan biopic with Chris Hemsworth. If that, that was
the Gawker movie. He's
right.
Yeah, right. So yeah.
Right. So then we'll see if where that ranks. But those are your big four 80s superstars. So where did it now I'm forgetting, Clayton, Horizon opened to in the teens, right? So so Horizon did edge out Reagan here. But yeah, I think Horizon at least set the stage for Reagan this summer. Let's talk about
the budgetary difference was huge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Nobody's house was on the line here, I don't believe.
I would also think that there was some Kickstarter element to this Reagan movie. Because, Kirk, do you think Kevin Sorbo auditioned for and got the part, or do you think Kevin Sorbo contributed to the budget of this movie?
I think he's a friend of the Reagan legacy. I think he's a friend. I think he's fond of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of. I always assume, and maybe I'm assuming this blindly, everybody in the cast of a movie like this is conservative based, but maybe not. Maybe some people are just looking for work. I don't know Penelope Ann Miller's political affiliation, or Mina Suvari, or Thomas Howell.
Right.
But I don't. I think they should have. If it was me, like having C. Thomas Howell in there, I would have peppered a Reagan movie with like 80s people. Like, I think he played Casper Weinberger. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I would have done way more of that. Way more.
Yeah. Who else could they have had in this?
Dennis Quaid counts in my mind, so that's fine. But
Mr. T should have been in this movie.
Mr. T could have been one of the football players he befriends at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, absolutely.
The scene where they show, hey, Ronnie is, could have been Emmanuel Lewis, and Mr. T.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right there. That works.
And we've never seen Mr. T age down yet. So I think just the draw of come to Reagan to see Mr. T age down to a teenager, that's $3 million extra at the box office.
Yeah, there are scenes, again, I'm not being critical of the film. There are scenes where Dennis Quaid, I think, is playing in his 30s, I think. His face is like when you see these bad filtered pictures on Facebook where he doesn't even really have a nose. It's I think an interesting choice by director Sean McNamara, who I'm, obviously interested to see where he goes career-wise after this.
He does, and this is no offense to anybody who is a victim of this, but he does sometimes look like a burn victim.
Yeah.
In certain times. Don't know if that was, there's a Freddy Krueger-ness to his face in some of these shots. Maybe that's sort of a comment on how
could be a satire of some kind, right? Yeah.
Some people view him, some people view him as a monster, a la Freddy Krueger. That could be like a comment on that. There's so many things going on. As Ronnie said in this movie, when he was the lifeguard, he saw how the water moved on the top, but he also saw how it moved under. So, that's what this movie is. That is what this movie is. There's currents going over and under inside this movie. So there could be things that we would have to see this movie a dozen times to really pick up on all of it.
Well, there's a great one. That girl in the pool, in the water he saves at the beginning should be Leah Thompson, could be Jennifer Grey.
Yes.
From, boom, done. De-aged, looking like Harrison Ford did, make her look like she did in Red Dawn or something. Or
what you do to Jennifer Grey, and this is because I'm
give her the old nose back.
Give her the old nose back.
Yeah,
exactly. You knew exactly. Give her the old nose back. It's we all loved what was that show? It's like we loved you. It's like but there was something missing from it, and it was that original nose, that beautiful nose that she regrets. I read her memoir. She regrets it.
Yep.
We have the technology to give this woman her original nose back, and we should do that.
And gotta say, in our screening, that scene got huge reaction. when
Really?
Reagan saved the girl who was clearly pretending to drown so that a muscular Ronald Reagan could
It's
save
horny.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, loved
Yeah,
it.
wanted
People
it.
loved it.
Yeah.
And it gave the Reagan crowd just enough sex. You know,
Mhm.
that's
Yes.
the level of sex we wanted in this movie.
There was some as we would say in the 80s, Frenching going on. They were hitting
Mhm.
first base a little bit, no second. Ronnie was banging singles out left and right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say the audience for the tear down that wall scene was fired up. There was a roar. The guy 2 seats away from me said he's going to say it. He's going to say it. And guess what?
Mhm.
He said it.
He said it.
He said it.
And what was great was a character in the movie was watching Reagan make this speech, and the character said, "Is he going to say
Yes.
it?"
And the guy answered him. He said he's going to say it. I said I think he's going to say it too.
And then
And
he said it.
Yes.
And then the character said, "Wow, he said
he
it."
said it.
Yeah.
They high fived. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to give context, that was the speechwriter, so therefore, I do think that the investment was real. I mean,
of course.
no one's more invested in if someone's going to say something than a presidential speechwriter.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I thought the casting, as I said, of everyone's kind of looks like them, and they're sort of guys we know. And then George Bush has one line, and it's played by somebody that is, I don't know what. I have to think they had somebody cast who was sick that day, and they just dragged some guy in. That was my take. I wanted Dana Carvey in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, no brainer.
That's a no-brainer. That's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. And listen, we all listen to Fly on the Wall. Carvey would be raring to have been in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's looking. Yeah, he's definitely looking for that.
Yeah, yeah. Carvey would have been great. And I mean, the thing is, if you cast Carvey as George H.W. Bush in this movie, he needs an entire scene to just go on his own. You can't just pan around the conference room and there's Dana Carvey's George W. Bush. Like, he needs to give a 2-camera address for 7 to 8 minutes, and he needs to say live from New York at the end of the scene.
Yeah. And I do think instead of, if you did have Carvey, instead of the footage of Ronald Reagan's funeral that we get at the end with Nancy, kissing the casket, it would have to be outtakes of Dana Carvey doing that scene. Like, I think that's what the audience would want, because as much as we're all there to see Ronnie's funeral again, to relive that, you'd be like, where are the outtakes? Because this audience is not going to go online and click to find the bloopers and outtakes from Dana Carvey as George Bush Sr. They're going to need it right there and then.
Yeah, or the deleted scenes in the DVD. They may get that.
They might get the DVD at Walmart. Right. Absolutely. Horizon. I mean, the Horizon Reagan double pack is going to fly off the shelves at the truck stops and at the Walmarts, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Here's what I think may have happened, though, just going back to when they showed George H.W. Bush, and it was, I think, an obese man with no glasses who did not look anything like the real life Bush. I think they didn't cast him in that part. I think they forgot to cast anyone, and then they realized they had never cast a Bush, and they just threw the name up over a different extra that was never cast to play that part. That's what I think happened.
Yeah, definitely possible.
Yeah.
This guy got a bump. I was, as everybody knows listening to this podcast, I am a SAG member in terrible standing, and it gets worse by the day. And but you could get bumps. You could get a bump if you get wet, if you have to cut your hair, if they have you play George H.W. Bush. Those are some bumps that you would have. So you always are hoping for the George Bush bump, because that means a decent amount of screen time, at least for somebody who's an extra. So whoever got that bump, good on them.
Let's get to the Russians here, the commies. We mentioned John Voight, who, of course, in the Oscar nomination,
refer to them as
Reds.
Reds.
Yeah. So John Voight, of course, perfect accent, giving a tour de force performance. He's in the turtle outfit. He's doing great in this movie. We mentioned him briefly. Robert Davi, of course, famously of the Goonies. He's in this as Brezhnev. I think he's got a tough road to get into that supporting actor conversation with all these big stars. He's got Dylan Zorbo, John Voight. That's a lot of competition. But I mean, let's give it to him. Is this the best Robert Davi's performance you've seen this century, Kirk? Or is there another Robert Davey performance that you think comes anywhere near this? He's playing Brezhnev. This is a huge part.
It's just good to see him on the big screen again. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't think in my life I'd see Robert Davey on the big screen again. So it was just didn't have a lot to say. And Voight was a little distracting. Younger Voight was a little distracting.
Yeah.
But no, it was good to see him. And I think you guys said last week with Jeff Bach, is he a value add? Definitely a value add.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, there's I don't know what this will lead to for him, but definitely a value add.
Yeah. And I'll say, you know, I feel like his skin is cleared up with age. You know, I mean, he looks kind of better
True.
than ever at this point.
True. Good point. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he looks great. And then let's go to a character that I was surprised, unless I'm missing who it was, wasn't played by a star. Mikhail Gorbachev.
Not played
in
by
this movie. Not played by a star, but I guess you don't need a star when you've got that infamous birthmark. Kirk, just how excited were you to see that birthmark on the big screen? This is a birthmark that I kind of feel like, for me and Clayton, one of the defining aspects of our childhood was the Gorbachev birthmark.
I mean, it's Cindy Crawford and Gorbachev. Those are the beauty marks.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I liked the guy who played him in Rocky IV better. And I like the Naked Gun stuff. But this guy was good. You know, he was good. There was a lot of scenes of them talking about very basic stuff that I'd like to think in real life they got a little more in depth, but I don't know. But then at the end, you know, you saw some pictures of them smiling, having a good time. So yeah, that was a good moment. I saw somebody on Twitter say that they also were in a crowded theater, and when they showed Gorbachev for the first time, somebody next to them said, "That's Gorbachev."
Yeah.
So that's a trademark. That's of any leader in the history of the world. I think that's the most famous. That, and I'll just say it: Hitler's mustache.
Yeah.
Or 1, 2. I mean, I'm not, we're not Hitler guys here, of course. But I mean, we're just being honest. I mean, I would say 1, 2. Yeah, right.
Those are the big two. Yeah. And you never want to see those combined. I think if we ever get a president or a world leader who does both of those at the same time, I think that's overkill.
It's a hat on a hat for sure. It's a hat on a hat.
Yeah. So any other big performances that we haven't talked about here? You know, again, this is this year's Oppenheimer.
Sure.
I mean, Oppenheimer last year, Josh Hartnett comes out of that, and the next summer he's got a star vehicle. I mean, we'll see Thomas Howell have a star vehicle, though I think he died. Clayton, did you say this is the late C. Thomas Howell?
What?
Or is he alive?
Oh no. I just said
Jesus
that
Christ.
he had the look of a corpse, but he was not a corpse. That's what I
He's
said.
not a corpse.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah.
So he is eligible to be the headliner of a M. Night Shyamalan movie this time next summer.
That would be great. James Baker in the film is played by Nick Searcy, who I don't know if you guys know him or not. He was Tom Hanks's best friend, Stan, I believe his name is, in Castaway.
Oh, okay.
He apologizes when they're flying back. He apologizes that he wasn't there for his friend's wife's funeral. And his friend really should have said in Castaway, well, you were on a deserted island for 5 years. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'll give you a pass. But Nick Searcy is a very famous Republican in Hollywood as well. That's why one of my favorite actors, like him, don't like him, politics, whatever. I needed Jimmy Woods in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we needed, like, I don't know what, the great Oscar-winning producer of Oppenheimer, ironically. Jimmy Woods was not playing some role as some member of the what is going on here?
Do you think it comes down to James Woods as if I'm not Reagan, I'm not in this movie?
It's Ronnie or bust. I think it's Ronnie or bust.
Yeah. Or Nancy. It's Ronnie or Nancy. Those are the parts that are
third role, really.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't think of that. Yeah, I mean, he could have played the Voight role.
He could have played the Voight role.
Would he have done a commie accent? Would he have done a commie accent? I don't think he would have.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could have played Tip. What's his name? Tip.
Well, we're throwing another candidate in there. My man Dan Lauria, of course, from the Wonder Years.
Right.
Tip O'Neill.
Tip O'Neill, yes.
Yep. Showing up, famous Boston politician, of course. Showing up, him and Ronnie, sure they battle, but, they tip back a few at the end of the day. As they told us right away when they met that was going to happen. And it turns out that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. There's a 6 p.m. every day.
Yep. plays
Yeah,
Vincent
so
Hardy on
you don't
Broadway.
want to take Dan Laurie out of that role. So I don't know if there is. I really do think that's the issue here.
Good
You
point.
can't
Good
get
point, Dave.
Woods and Quaid in the same movie because
Oh.
one of them's got to play Reagan, and then the other one is just is not gonna take a lower
How about
part.
Quaid, who we haven't even really discussed? What did you guys think of Dennis Quaid?
I mean, I gotta say, again, the scenes where he's playing younger, where he's playing like a 25 to 30-year-old man, it's a bit of a stretch. He looks like a bit of a monster.
Could have
But
recap. Yeah.
once you get past that, I do think this is a pretty great performance. I mean, I don't think there's anyone who would have done better as Reagan.
There's
you
been some
know?
bad Reagans, in TV, like Alan Rickman played him,
Mhm.
James Brolin played him, Tim Matheson, who I'm a fan of, played it. I agree. Like, even kind of resembled him in certain shots in the movie. Like he was fine. I will admit, like I'm a little cynical about this movie, but I
Mhm.
will admit when he goes on that horse for the last time, it got me.
Mhm.
It got me. It got me.
One last ride.
One
Yeah.
last ride. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Secret Service agents, you could tell they somehow knew it was one last ride when they were watching him do the ride, even though they had no idea that conversation had happened, that he had said, let's go on one last ride.
Correct.
But there was a lot of in this movie, which I think every movie needs to have more of characters who are clearly doing the expressions that the audience should be having.
Yes.
And this
Mhm.
movie does a good job of that, of giving people audience facial reactions inside of the movie.
Yeah, holding
Well,
your hand for you. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes a movie will have an audience surrogate as one character. There's the one
Mhm.
character that is going through the events with you as an audience member and guiding you.
Right.
This had multiple, too many
Yes.
to count characters who are the audience surrogates, and that's definitely a choice. It was definitely a choice. And when we speak of that last ride, I thought it was interesting that Secret Service agent that rides with him, that it was about 45 minutes earlier, he is
Mhm.
introduced briefly, asked to ride with Ronnie, then we'd never see him again.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
wondering, will this man ever appear again on screen?
Mhm.
And then he does at the end for that poignant send-off. So I enjoyed the fact that that wasn't just a non sequitur,
Right.
and it actually had some meaning. And when he comes back, you're like, "Oh, that guy. I remember that conversation."
Mhm.
Yep.
And then when they're riding together, it means something.
Yeah. Dennis Quaid, great in this movie. Obviously, this could be his Cillian Murphy year, playing a real life character, get the Oscar finally. Do we think that this could have been a movie also with Randy Quaid playing Ronald Reagan?
He has a brother in the movie. I mean, these a couple of scenes where it'd been nice to see those guys together again. I saw Dennis Quaid on some podcast somewhere say he misses his brother and he's gonna have a big comeback. He said,
Mhm.
Wow.
it would have been nice to see him. I mean, tough. I mean, again, it probably have to shave in the trim for this kind of, Ronnie. I mean, you saw the hippie speechwriter,
Mhm.
put on a suit, cut your hair. I think Randy would have get rid of that beard probably for this role.
Yeah, I think he's uninsurable is also the problem.
That's
And I don't know if this movie did have insurance on its actors. It may have just passed
feel
over
like
that.
Yeah.
But I think right now it's tough to get Randy Quaid. Also, I think it might be impossible to get him into the country. I think that's also
it's
an
in Canada,
issue.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also had a Bob Dylan song at the end, the Bob Dylan cover over the Reagan funeral
Yep.
scene, which was, also I thought interesting that Bob Dylan submitted a song for the soundtrack.
Well, we were talking about this, the
Mhm.
soundtrack. So, the Genesis song played during the time when
Confusion,
they
right?
were where they were showing all of the haters. We'll
Yes.
call them the haters.
Sure.
And it was very interesting. Me and Pat were talking afterwards, strolling down the street of New York City, greatest city in the world. And we were wondering why Genesis, who wrote that song about Reagan,
Mhm.
would allow that to be played. Now, we had various hypotheses that they don't own the rights to
They
that.
sold their
which is-
catalog. I don't know.
they may have sold the big catalog and, Reagan ponied up the money, or Pat posited something where they were okay with it because it was during the scene where they
Oh.
showed all of the things that the opponents of Reagan have said and continue to say.
We'll call that a
And
very brief scene.
it was very brief. Yeah, it was
Mhm.
very brief. And so I mean, that was one of those things where we think the core audience of this movie would see that, and it's not going to impact them,
No,
right?
that's a pee break for the older crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, okay, here's the people who are against Ronnie,
Right.
these Genesis
These
commies.
hippies, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. These I mean, they're live in England, or Pat's
Limeys, yeah.
favorite place,
Yeah.
Limeys, if you
Yeah,
will.
nothing against that, of course.
Mike
Yeah.
And so,
Rutherford and Tony Banks. Yeah, screw them.
yeah, so they go up and they use the bathroom, they get more popcorn, they get more sody. So
Yep.
that's true. That's probably the time. That was sort of halfway through, so that is an intermission.
I mean, Land of Confusion might just be a natural trigger for a lot of that audience to
Sure, the
go
hook.
pee. Like it's just been that way for 40 years. You hear Land of Confusion, you're getting up out of your seat and you're leaving the room.
It was
And-
great though to see the clips from DC Follies, because you don't get to see a lot of clips from DC Follies in the wild, and that was I loved seeing that.
Favorite show of mine as a kid. Definitely. Yes.
Fred Willard, rest in
Great
peace.
as the bartender.
Yeah.
Yep. Great show. Yeah.
So this movie, obviously, some of those Twisters dollars are Reagan dollars. We all have established that. Yeah, Kirk, you did posit, will this have legs? Obviously, next week, Reagan is meeting up with another 80s icon. He's maybe walking into a buzzsaw because Beetlejuice opens next weekend. Is that going to be a problem for the long-term run of Reagan? The fact that you've got this other big 80s character coming out at the same time with probably a movie that's getting slightly more promotion,
Sure.
and more mainstream recognition going on here at Beetlejuice, slightly. So is that going to be a problem for Reagan?
I'll say no. That feels like two totally different audiences to me. I'm not saying I think Reagan will have a decent second weekend. I've said this. You guys are, I think, way more hyped up than I am. I heard obviously Clayton's story. I like Edward Scissorhands and I love Ed Wood. Love it. And that's about it for me with Tim Burton. So I don't care about Beetlejuice. But I mean, you guys were right and I was wrong. Like a month or two ago, I'm seeing projections now. It's going to be at 105, 110 million. I would have never, ever guessed that. It's great. I mean, I'm happy it's going to do that, but I would have never guessed that 3 months ago.
I mean, Beetlejuice's opening weekend is probably going to be helped by some of the Reagan audience who doesn't want to be tracked. They'll probably buy some Beetlejuice tickets and then go see Reagan.
Well, because then they'll be shrouded. I mean, that's such a huge number that they can hide in. You know, like that's just going to be like nobody's going to be individually counting who went to see Beetlejuice, right? So
And
that's
Reagan,
the perfect place to hide.
And Reagan is not going to make, for political purposes, Beetlejuice's youth and experience a factor at the box office this weekend. He's just not going to do that.
He's not going to do it.
He won't do that. He won't do it.
And that's when the tide turned. That's when the tide turned.
Yes, I didn't know that until they told me that's when the tide turned.
And if he says that to Beetlejuice will just have to laugh because he knows.
Oh yeah, he'll make a face. Right, everyone's eyes will pop out. Exactly. That will definitely happen. I think I'm the only person in America. I'll be curious what you guys think. I think I'm the only person in America who saw Reagan and Between the Temples this weekend. The Carol Kane, Jason Schwartzman comedy. I saw them both in the theater this weekend. I think I'm the only American who can make that claim. Maybe not.
This is a reason to call Guinness.
Yeah,
you know,
I think so.
I think we give them the call and we check for sure, because you may not be the only one, but it is definitely worth checking.
It felt it. It was great, by the way. Just if you're looking to see, it's playing limited, but it felt like a independent movie from like 96.
Okay.
I mean, Pat, you know what we're talking about, but the movies were made in the mid 90s, you know, sort of Spanking the Monkey, David O. Russell kind of, Bottle Rocket had that feel to it.
Oh, yes. Kicking and Screaming, not the Will Ferrell version.
No, that's what Pat would write. Yes. No,
Pat knows the Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell and Ditka's in it.
Yeah, he loves that. He thinks that's funny. He likes soccer, Robert Duvall. Yeah, the whole thing. But yeah, it was Definitely, it's made over $1 million, which is pretty good. I
That's
like
good.
I like seeing that. So yeah, I saw them both, and if it's playing in your small town, go see it. It's worth. It's an interesting movie.
Are they in a romance?
I'm not going to
Jason
give that
Schwartzman,
away.
Carol-
I'm not giving it away.
Oh.
I'm not giving it away.
Wow. So it's on the table.
But I'll tell you this: Carol Kane is so good in it, and I'm a big fan of hers. She might get a little bit of Oscar buzz I've seen. She might get elevated to being the fourth woman in these 4 women movies we always talk about.
Women of a certain age.
Women of a certain age. She's not landed in that world yet. She might get that 4th spot.
Wow. Oh man. Now, and we've
Fourth,
declared.
I know.
We've declared that genre dead, but now you do want it to carry on for another movie or two, so
Yeah.
Carol can
her
get in
paycheck,
there with
yeah.
Diane Keaton.
Exactly. Yeah. Her Daffy sister or something. Yeah.
Now-
Well, you could have those movies might need to continue because you had Thelma was such a huge hit this summer, and so you're gonna have to find more star vehicles for June Squibb. So it could be a women of a certain age 4-hander comedy. June Squibb, Carol Kane. We just need a refresh of that group. We can't just keep going back to Jane Fonda and Diane Keaton anymore. We got to get Squibb and now Carol Kane in there.
Yeah, no Lily Tomlin. We don't need that. Right. Yes. Yeah, you need that. You need that sort of new one. Midler, no. Sarandon, no. Streep won't do it. Who is out there, that A-lister? I don't know, but yeah, I agree.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh.
I mean, she's getting into that age group. That could be a big one. I mean, I think that could be a game changer if you get Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, and of course, you're going to know where I'm going with this, Kirk. Someone who hasn't done one of those movies yet, but
Logan
my
Paul.
girl.
Okay, no. All right.
Ellen Barkin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You get Ellen Barkin, June Squibb, Michelle Pfeiffer, Carol Kane.
That's a good
There
movie.
is your new refresh of the women of a certain age comedy.
I'm in.
Yeah, that's huge. And then listen, Penelope Ann Miller, Mina Suvari, they're back because of Reagan, and maybe within a couple of years they age into that movie. They could play one of their daughters now, but someday they will get to be leads in those movies.
And that's why those movies will never die, because there is a generation coming behind that. Like Cameron Diaz, I know she's got a Netflix movie, but she's going to want to be back on the big screen, and she's close to a woman of a certain age. Aniston is close to a woman of a certain age. I mean, this is going to be a powerhouse group of women of a certain age at some point. So in 10, 15 years, that genre is going to be back, and it is going to be kicking for sure.
Yeah. And 15 years from now, that'll be just when June Squibb is about to hand over the crown and stop being the headliner in these movies. So
now, because really quickly, because we were talking about Reagan's legs, and I just want to do demos really fast, because this will kind of show whether Beetlejuice is really going to eat into the Reagan money at all. So 51% to 49% men and women, so very close. 77% definite recommend by the audience, so that's really good. 87% over the age of 35. Largest demo being 55 plus at 63%. Caucasians, 78%. Latino and Hispanic, 13%. Black moviegoers, 1%. And the other being 2%. Not necessarily a diverse audience.
Well, here's the thing, guys. We were the youngsters in this crowd. You know, I mean, the 55% and up was 63%. So we were the young fellas at
young
Reagan
bucks.
this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah,
we were 3 young bucks. So just quickly, the only other movie that opened this weekend, Afraid, If Megan Was a House movie from Sony. This one really flew under the radar. It was all Reagan this weekend. So, Clayton, you brought up something that you think could have helped this movie if they had put it in the movie and put in the advertising. Do you remember what it is you said to me this weekend?
The house need to dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how they would have done it on the budget because they like to keep the budget low. But if it's gonna be if you're trying to do a Megan, you
Yeah.
got to have a dance. You got to have the house dance,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think that's a part that I mean I haven't seen it, but I do think they would be publicizing that if a house was dancing, and they just didn't. And so my fear though, and I know this is going to be a movie that still makes money because they keep those budgets really low. They're very smart about keeping the budgets low. They're just now Blumhouse has become not a go-to everything is great. And I know that they did a good job of like putting stuff on streamers that they thought wasn't very good and dumping things on PVOD that weren't very good. They seem to be putting a lot into theaters. I mean, we have Night Swim. They used to be just a complete seal of quality in a way that they're maybe losing. And I fear for that because you don't want them to become sort of like a Lionsgate situation where who knows
Mm.
what you're getting when
Mhm.
you get a Lionsgate movie. And we don't want Blumhouse to fall into that because there's a possibility that then you have a great Blumhouse movie that people don't go to see because they're afraid they're going to get a Night Swim, they're going to get an Afraid, they're going to
Right.
get an Invitation, things like that.
Lionsgate made me think of the two trailers we got back to back before Reagan. One was Zemeckis and Hanks. Here, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Here.
Audience liked that. They were smiling. They were happy. Then Megalopolis came on, and the old people were terrified.
Yes.
They didn't know what they seem like when old people get older and they're confused, they need to be walked back to their car or put down, put their home. They seem like we're not here for this experience. Why is that big thing moving? Was that a lion? What's going on? But then they calm down. But that was not Reagan will 3x Megalopolis' opening weekend, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 million. I'm going to say 3.8 million for Megalopolis.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on whether they charge the people who are going to perform in the movie, do that scene where you act in the movie from the theater. I think if those people get to come in for free, then it's under 3 million. I think if they actually have to buy a ticket to come in, that could push it over 3 million.
Well, I need the video of the empty theater and like one guy playing that.
I mean, that feels like the next movie that you're going to need to come on the show for, Kirk, is Megalopolis opening weekend.
Yeah. So that's the only thing holding that back is I think that weekend is I'm actually going to be doing season 2 of Surviving Barstool, which is a reality show.
Wow.
At Barstool. So if I'm that weekend, I will not be allowed to do anything at all if it's that same weekend. If not, I will definitely be there. That if you said to me 2 more movies this year, I think it's those 2 movies. The Zemeckis thing blows my mind watching that trailer. And Megalopolis. I'm a Bachhead. I don't like the Megaflopolis jokes because the man directed the conversation. He directed Apocalypse Now. We speak his name, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. He's not calling him the Flop Father. He's not calling the Flop Father Part 2. He's not calling him even the Flop Father Part 3.
There's a guy who told me the Flash is going to make $10 billion though. So it's like, slow down when you make fun of Francis. I mean, the man did direct Godfather 1 and 2. I'm just saying, he wrote Patton.
They were pumping pure hype into CinemaCon that year.
True.
So he was filled with pure hype.
He was a victim. It was like the Gulf War in Sarin or whatever that is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's like you know what it's like? A victim like Reagan was with Iran-Contra. I mean, saw the movie. I saw the movie. I wasn't sure. I saw the movie. The man didn't know what was going on.
I gotta say that all happened when I was a kid, and I've never looked into it in the 35, 40 years since.
You're all set. You saw enough.
And now I've seen the movie, and it's like, oh, it was a big misunderstanding.
Big misunderstanding. Yeah.
Big misunderstanding. I didn't realize until now that Iran-Contra was just a big misunderstanding and a minor whoopsie. Yeah. And now I know because of Reagan.
Yeah.
And wait, Reagan didn't say it depends on the definition of what is like he did. Exactly. Oh no, that's right. He fessed up. He fessed up.
Exactly.
Interesting. He fessed up. That's an interesting way to do it.
Yep.
So Kirk, you have a lot going on over there. You got the Surviving Barstool. How much of the competition for Surviving Barstool is movie trivia and box office trivia related? Do you think you'll have
Boy, I wish it was. I don't think much. I don't think there's going to be a midnight run supporting characters. I don't think it'll be 6
Mhm.
Degrees of Kevin Bacon, I should say. So I think I'm going to be best director Oscar winners. So I think I'll be in some trouble. No Eddie and the Cruiser stuff. So I think I'm gonna have to hang in there the best I can and do puzzles and climb stuff and see how long you can stand on the thing for. And
Okay.
for $250,000 for the winner. So
Wow.
yeah. So we're in. I'm all in. Yes. Yep.
I mean, you got to win this thing because then you could fund Horizon Chapter 3.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Reagan, or Reagan's kid who's the talk show host, the conservative talk show host. Maybe tell his story. Michael Reagan.
Yeah, there's so much that you could do if you win this money.
Or is there a sequel that's called Reagan?
Sure.
Just like Beetlejuice.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Is this second best? Is this the second best movie? I guess. Well, with just the president's name in the title, I would put JFK first.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's unintentional.
Still put Lincoln second.
I mean,
it's a little long.
It's a little boring. It's boring at times. I'm bored
Yeah.
at times. I'm a little bored. I would have liked if they had Tommy Lee Jones, Joe Pesci, and Kevin Bacon reenact that scene in the Reagan movie.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been
yes.
that would have been a bold move. Just saying.
Yes. Joe Pesci just showing up as his character from JFK in Reagan.
David Ferry, yeah, would have been great. Would have been great. Yeah.
And I feel like it would have worked with what John Voight was doing. It all would have made sense.
True. Yeah.
And I'll say this might be a hot take, but Daniel Day-Lewis, the acting's maybe sometimes too good.
Right. Yes.
He's just sometimes too good.
Mhm.
And you're just sort of like, okay, we get it, you're good, but like, do you have to be this good all the time? Like, look at Ben Kingsley. Like he's crappy like 45 to 50% of the time, and he's still a great actor. Like this guy's just always good, and it's sort of like too much.
It's too much.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Kirk, any other movies in the last couple of weeks that you had any hot takes on? I mean,
Harry and I saw Alien.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought it was a double. I like everybody else. I'm a big Ian Holm guy, so that was a little weird for me. But for what it was, totally like if every summer movie was that good, I'd be pretty happy. I thought it was a solid. It's doing crazy money internationally.
Yeah,
crazy, which I know you guys talked about. So that's a nice again 6 months ago, I didn't think of that as being a big hit. It's been a huge hit. We haven't seen any. No, we haven't seen anything else the last few weeks. So no, it's been pretty quiet.
You and Harry Minahan didn't see It Ends With Us in the theater.
Nope, we're in the book club. We read it together.
Okay.
See, we're Hoover heads. We don't go to the movies. We stick to the books. Yeah, that's the way we do it. Yeah, but I mean, did you guys see that one?
I did. Yeah, I did. I saw it. Pat also saw it. He loved
also
it.
Saw it. I thought it was fantastic. Not Reagan, of course. I don't think it's getting Oscar nominations, but yeah, I was enthralled by It Ends With Us.
There are like every 10 years, whether it's Sleeping with the Enemy, which Clayton remembers, Pat doesn't even know what that is. Then
I had the VHS.
Double Jeopardy, even Gone Girl to some extent. And now like every 10, 50, these movies hit. They just hit. Like that's a genre that just always lands, like the damsel in distress kind of thing. People just want to see that stuff.
Now, Pat, when you say you had the VHS, was it something that you teethed on? Did your parents give you that so that when you were crying and you were teething, is that what you used that for? Because I can't assume you've ever done the motion of putting a VHS into a VHS.
You went to a museum in high school and they had that.
And they had it. He was like, what's this artifact? Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Has to be.
I am Gen X.
It's never been in a Blockbuster his entire life. You've never even know what it was. Be Kind, Rewind. You don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
I in your life.
I almost worked at a Blockbuster. I worked at a Kmart instead. But I am of the generation where I could have worked at a Blockbuster.
Never used a land phone to order a pizza. These things never. These never happen. These things just never ever happen.
No.
So. Yes, I think those are all the movies. Blink Twice. Did you see it? Would you have been more likely to see it, Kirk, if it had stayed with the title of Pussy Island?
Probably, yeah. It just felt familiar. It didn't mean much to me. I will watch it eventually, but yeah, that did not. I feel like I saw the trailer 60,000 times. I don't know. It felt very. Go ahead.
Are you a Channing Tatum guy?
I was saying this, texting with another Barstool player a little bit the other day. I think Channing Tatum in a right role is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's a great performance in there somewhere in the future. I know he's a little modern, but, you know, obviously Fly Me to the Moon stunk. But, you know, in the right role, I think he'll be nominated for an Oscar one day.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I can see that. Lovable oaf, though. He's got to be a lovable oaf. That's what we said. That's his lane, is lovable oaf.
But I think if you made Moneyball today, he'd probably play Billy Bean.
Oh, that's such an interesting casting. I do think he could do well in that. Yeah.
Like smart, but kind of not smart, like the right way, like not, you know, not brainy, but like physically.
Yeah.
Like, I think he can play that role. Yeah. I
A
think
smart jock.
Yeah. Like, I think he'll be nominated for an Oscar one day.
Could he play Billy Bean in a sequel to Moneyball?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the A's have done nothing the last 25 years, but sure. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. Even that's a movie.
Yeah. So, here's what Channing Tatum could have played. And of course, we all know that his next movie should be Shirt Off My Back, about him buying a shirt every day because he doesn't do laundry. But he could have played, they could have gotten around the Dennis Quaid de-aging if you had Channing Tatum play the young Ronald Reagan in Reagan. That's probably the only thing that could have taken this movie up any notches, because we all agree it's basically 9.9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But that may have been what makes Reagan a full-on 10 masterpiece Godfather level movie.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So, Kirk, anything else that you want to let our audience know about, or crow about? I mean, you solved yet another murder.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Season 2.
Saw
you on TMZ. You may be our first guest who's ever been on TMZ. So tell us, crow about solving a murder.
Yeah, Harvey's a friend, so that was a good spot. Yeah, you know, season 2 of The Case, which is the true crime podcast I do. Season 1, our subject of our was arrested for murder. Season 2 this week, Matthew Farwell, who we were the first to report thought killed Sandra Birchmore, was in fact arrested this week by the federal government, is facing the death penalty potentially for this murder. So if you want to go listen to that, the numbers are, I was just looking, saw my producer before, I think it's 28th right now, The Case, for all shows on Apple Podcasts overall. So the numbers have really spiked, which is great. We put a lot of work into it. So yeah, so very, very grateful for that. Putting in a lot of work. So yeah, very happy with that. Yeah.
So you're not just sitting around drinking glasses of wine, goofing about crimes. You are on the streets, cuffing suspects.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
And making a difference and making a difference. That is awesome.
Like President Reagan himself, you know, I'm out there getting it done, you know, taking care of these bad guys. So exactly. So we have the Kirk Minahan Show as well. Our old producer, Dave Cullinane, is back. Jack Coleman is out. So things never stop moving here. And I'll see you guys in just a few short months.
Yes.
No, November 16th. I mean, the tickets, Kirk, the tickets are flying. This thing is going to be a sellout.
Good.
At the Comedy Studio in Cambridge. This is going to be gigantic. So if you haven't already,
you were saying what was the movie we're going to be talking? You were talking to Jeff Buck. There's a movie coming out the weekend before, right?
Well, that Friday. So our show is Saturday the 16th. That Friday, Red One, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, opens that Friday. So we have to see that movie.
Your Enemy. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all going to be bringing Voss water bottles up onto the stage, because we're going to go as long as it takes to talk about this movie.
Oh yeah. Bladder. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a gimmick for the show. Everyone bring a Voss water bottle in. I'm sure the Comedy Studio is going to love that. Is that
and
all
who cares?
Well, if we're doing a competition, whoever fills their bottle first legally with legal urine, their urine, we have to make sure it's their urine only, might win a prize.
Yeah.
I like that. That.
That might be how we give away the one selfie that's allowed after the show.
Fill up your Voss.
Yeah, fill up your Voss. So that's November 16th. And Kirk, you have a live show yourself in September, is it?
Back in Saco at the Drive-In Movie Theater. We do it every year. We started in 2020. Like I told you guys, I think before, I wanted to do 2 shows at Drive-In Movie Theater in the summer of 2020 so we could be on Box Office Mojo. It didn't happen. They didn't report our totals, so we sold both shows out. This one's basically, I think, a sellout. I think there's still a few seats left, or whatever, cars left. September, what is it, Justin?
21st.
September 21st, Saturday night. We'll be there doing the show from there. And then I'm off from there to Chicago, flying the next day to Chicago for Surviving Barstool to see how we maybe
Wow.
win the big prize.
Yeah.
Wow. So solving murders,
Solving murders.
selling out drive-ins,
Yep.
selling out comedy clubs with audiences carrying in jars full of urine.
Yep.
And winning 250 grand so that you could fund Reagan.
Yep. Will there be, we're not streamers here.
Huh.
Haven't been contacted by one of the major streaming services for a documentary about season 2 of the case? Who's to say?
Wow.
Not here to say that because I'm not, there's been conversations, but ultimately I'm a big screen guy.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not doing some, by the way, somebody is playing me in the Aaron Hernandez miniseries on that's coming out on FX because I was a Boston sports talk show host and kind of got in the middle of it right before he died. So there is an actor. What's his name? My producer's name is Justin as well. His name is also Justin. Right?
Justin Grace.
Justin Grace is playing me in the last episode of that.
Wow.
Why Clayton didn't get that role, I don't know. But
Man.
but yeah, yes. So it just never it never stops.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I hear Randy Quaid did want that to be his big comeback part. Was
Yes.
playing Kirk Minahan.
Yep. Kevin Spacey, Randy Quaid, they all reached out. Kevin Spacey could have been in Reagan. Like they could have put him in Reagan.
Yes.
Former president,
Here you go. I mean, of course, it should have been Carvey, but barring that, Kevin Spacey as George Herbert Walker Bush. Because listen, we all saw Spacey, his
Yep. He wears
SNL.
glasses
He's
now.
an impressionist.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Could have done it. Could have done
Could
it.
have done it. He would have played it as Jack Lemmon playing George Herbert Walker Bush, of course.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Right. His idol.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that listen, again, that's why Kirk, when you win Surviving Barstool, there's a lot of ways to go with this Reagan sequel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no question. No question.
So, all right. So everyone, you got a lot of Kirk Minahan that you got to get to. The live shows, our live show, the Case seasons 1 and 2 are out. So do all that. Of course, email us, the boboyspodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are YouTubers. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
And follow us on social media at the BO Boys Pod.
I'm sorry, Pat. One final thing. Did you want to give an international haul for this weekend or no?
Well, we've been getting a lot of debate about that.
Debate? Is it debate?
I'm fucking disgusted by it.
Yes.
Disgusting. Of this weekend of all weekends, even I'm obviously making it because Ronnie would make jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the kind of joke Ronnie would make in a meeting.
Right.
Yeah, he would give you the give you the razz kind of like that. Because I mean, that was really, I gasped in the car when I heard you do that. Gasped audibly.
When I suggested we switch to international.
Yeah, Harry had his earbuds on, of course, not paying attention. He was watching his whatever, some guy playing another game.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, I'm not even going to tell you what happened. I don't even understand what were you thinking?
I mean, listen, I was high off of, blood pudding. I had eaten a lot of blood pudding overseas. And
why don't you go to fucking Mount Rushmore?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go to Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Why don't you go to the Herbert Hoover Museum in West Branch, Iowa? Why don't you go somewhere in America? Go to America, this land of ours. We have together. This land is our land, and you're sitting there flying to some stupid England who lost. They lost 0-1. What do we need that for? You know how many great places there are in America?
Mm-hmm.
I like getting my passport stamped. If I go to Mount Rushmore Shore, they carve the stone. There's George Washington. I get it.
Pop up to Canada, have lunch, and pop back down.
If there's a way that I could travel to some of these quote unquote American sites and still get my passport stamped, then I'm into it.
Clay, you know what I did a couple of weeks ago? We had contest winners. So we did 2 shows, one in North Dakota, one in South Dakota, one in somebody's house. They won the contest. Yeah. I and my producers drove across America. We saw this land.
Beautiful.
From sea to shining sea.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pat, you know how you can get your passport stamped is you can go over and you can become an English person if you want, or get out of here and then become a citizen over there. And then you can come and visit this country and get your passport stamped everywhere. That's what you should do then. If that's what you want, if your precious passport, what are you going to get buried with it? Is that what you need? Is that your access to heaven? Is how many stamps you got on your passport?
Stamps.
Right there you could
Look at
see,
that.
if you're watching on YouTube, I am showing the
Disgusting.
British,
Still.
the
Hey, guys.
English flag. I mean, I will just quickly read. This person seems to have your guys' take. We got an email from a wannabe person, M. Haddock. M. Haddock says, domestic box office. No one cares about England and China. What's next? Insisting we use Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. Get bent, commie. Did your head get kicked too many times? Domestic only.
Pat, how do you spell the word center?
I spell it CENTRE.
I mean,
of course.
unbelievable.
Oh
It's
my
just
God.
disgusting.
Oh my
I'm gonna
God.
Vomit.
Of course.
Vomit. I'm gonna vomit.
So
See,
of
and
course,
this is the thing. I always, Kirk, and
Mhm.
you're one of our favorite guests. You're the favorite guest
Right.
we have on here. I'm just going to be honest about that. And I always think about your well-being during this show, because when we stop saying fuck it, and you
Yep.
almost permanently injured yourself, so you wouldn't
Correct.
have been able to play in the basketball league. You wouldn't be able to win this money in Surviving Barstool, because you
And
would
the
have been
fans across America would have been, yes,
you would have
mass
been in
suicide.
traction.
Mhm.
When he started talking about international, I
Oh.
thought, is Kirk running? Is he driving? Is
I was
he on a
driving, Rock.
roof? Is he on a roof cleaning gutters? These are the things I
Oh.
think about while we record this show. And Pat did not care.
Didn't care. You'll admit that, Pat. You don't care. You're typical foreigner, typical rude foreigner.
Yeah,
We see
didn't care.
it, dime a dozen.
I just assumed that you were listening to the show, playing a nice light game of cricket, and
Oh.
everything would be fine.
I mean, you're like Madonna? Is the accent?
Mhm,
When is that
mhm.
going to show up?
Oh, I mean, I'm hoping by the next summer movie season, my accent is completely
Full
different.
bloom.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
think-
the hope.
In your mind, in a perfect world, Reagan is played by, whoever, John Hurt.
Oh, Sir Ian
Or-
McKellen, of course.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah, sure.
The previously mentioned Ben Kingsley.
Right.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman's dead, but I understand.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Reagan at the BAFTAs, where it counts.
Unbelievable.
So, of course, follow us on social media at the BO Boys Pod. Wannabe senior intern Christopher is killing it with the vertical clips. The Substack is going, live shows, links in the show notes. And yeah, I mean, I think we nailed it, gents.
Yeah, you guys really did.
Yeah, you've said too much, Pat. There's nothing left to say.
Jolly hell.
Except for until next time.
We'll smell you at the box office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.